If you think tracking more KPIs will fix your business, think again. Most small businesses aren't suffering from a lack of KPIs, they are drowning in the wrong ones. In today's episode, we will go through the details of what it means to have model based KPIs for you to have a thriving business. Welcome to another episode of MoloMolo African Tech Stories. Hello and welcome to another episode of MoloMolo African Tech Stories. I'm Dr. PK, and today we are going to talk about kind of how do we grow in technical confidence, especially when it comes to growing small businesses trying to scale sustainably. Today we are diving into something every entrepreneur and manager thinks they've nailed: KPIs, key performance indicators. But here's the truth: tracking the wrong things or tracking everything can actually reduce performance, can increase stress in your team, and distract you from what really matters. Now, let's break the top 5 KPIs, in my view, misconception in small and medium enterprises, and how a system based approach can help you do better. So, misconception number one: more KPIs means better control. Now, measuring too many KPIs without clear priorities creates confusion, not clarity. Your team doesn't need 20 KPIs. Potentially, they just need 3 to 5 that aligns with your actual business goals. Now, this is so important because I've dealt with some of my clients in the last few weeks where this is so prevalent. You are looking at a KPI as a way of asserting control, and you're thinking, if I only had a bit more detail in that KPI, maybe I'll have more control. But the opposite is actually true. Is a KPI in actual fact should be as simple and easily adoptable as possible. That often results in inherent adoption and inherent alignment between you and the person you're trying to get performance out of. So it's so crucial that when you think about whether you're a tech professional or in business, that what am I trying to achieve that can minimize this KPI from even being visible in the first place? How can it really be aligned to the point where it doesn't even have to be mentioned? That is essentially how you should think about KPIs. Now, misconception number two: KPIs fix performance on their own. Again, KPIs are not magic. I think if you come from a corporate environment like I do over the last 17 years, you hear KPIs all the time. But I remember a very good story in one of my previous company whereby, of course, these KPIs were put in place and there's a whole system of it and so forth. And it boils down at the end of it to just key objectives for a project, which I believe is the wrong thing. It's if it's objective to a project and yet the processes within the project are broken, it's not worth having a KPI because it will not fix the inherent issue which affects your performance, which is what a KPI is trying to measure, or at least trying to give a target for. But you cannot have a target if you don't have a process. And that for me is fundamental to every business, to every profession, is the process is so much more important than the target. Because within a process that is easily adoptable, easily understandable, then all of a sudden the target, in a way, which I mentioned in my previous point, becomes obvious and becomes adoptable and becomes a shared KPI and not so much an individual one that tells you whether you've passed or failed. This creates oftentimes this lack of processes creates poor handovers, right? You have unclear roles and or manual workflows. No amount of metrics and targets can fix that. You need to fix the system first. It's so crucial to remember that you and I are part of a system. I spoke about it in one of my last engineering diaries that we need to remember that we're all part of a system, and a system fundamentally works with an input and has a specific output, and within that translation is a process. And that process needs to be taken seriously, needs to be aligned with our goals and missions, and needs to be aligned with where we want to go in the future as opposed to where we are stuck now in the present. So, misconception number 3: KPIs are a one size fits all. Now, we've seen it time and time again. Borrowing KPIs from big companies like, I don't know, Google and Tesla or Airbus, or, you can think of whatever big companies that you feel like, man, they're doing well and they are the reference, the go to. But we forget that it doesn't work like a bakery or a construction firm. It's your KPI should reflect your goals, your journey, and your operational rhythm. What does that mean by operational rhythm? It means that we don't all dance, we don't all operate at the same beat. Why? Because we are at different phases. All of us, you could have the same bakery on the same street operating in a completely different rhythm, and the KPIs cannot be the same. It is crucial to remember that KPIs is within your process. It's within what makes sense to you. It's within what also aligns with your values. For example, if one of the biggest KPIs that I hold on to within MoloMolo is the ability to be authentic. And how do you measure authenticity? Is you measure authenticity through the ability to be open about what are you doing, transparency, being willing to learn, the ability to say you're learning this and you're learning that. And those are measurable things that you can say, how well are you learning? How well are you learning about yourself? And it seems wishy-washy, but it goes hand in hand with your values. It goes hand in hand with who you are and what you're trying to bring to the world and the operational rhythm that you are currently on. It is not at all smart to take, cut and paste the KPIs from a big firm and think that they will just stick with your little business that is trying to take off or has been there for a couple of years. Right. Misconception number 4: lagging KPIs are not enough. What does that mean? Now, only tracking past results. So let's just say monthly revenue or, attendance or, I don't know, amount of sales for last month is like driving with a rear view mirror. I mean, think about that, right? You are driving and you constantly look behind. If you were to think about someone who does that, you would think you're pretty much paranoid. Like, who's behind me? What's happening? Why are they so close? Why are they so far? Why this? Why that? In actual fact, you forget about the future. You forget about where you want to go, where you should go. Are you even going in the right direction? And I beg to differ from these types of KPIs in a sense that you need to be able to look forward. You need to be able to have KPIs that bring you forward, that is future looking as opposed to backward looking. And this is not so easy because a lot of KPIs, by definition, are looking at what has happened as a means to figure out what will go on in the future. And I would rather reword or reframe a KPI with values, with specific behaviors that at least I have not yet formulated in a particular result, but are yet easily seen and are easily monitored so that indeed the results that you want in the future will be based on the right behavior. And behavior type KPIs are actually quite simple. Transparency, for a software development company, how much of peer reviews did you have? Now, if you were to only look at how many errors in your code did you have as a means of a KPI, The errors are done. You don't want errors. The errors could even be worse. Imagine if you only picked up the errors that the person allowed you to see. Even worse, because he thinks he needs to be perfect. So potentially he could be hiding the very big errors that could not only affect the KPI, but actually get him fired. So if you don't, a backward looking KPI for that specific example does not actually help with the values that you're trying to instill that will bring you future results. So things like peer reviews for software. How many peer reviews did you have? And acknowledge those who have done it and acknowledge how the other person who was part of the peer review, how do they feel and what type of feedback do they have? That is such a powerful, powerful thing to have as a KPI in engineering firms that allows to breed the right culture while tracking specific performance, like quality in this example. Game changer. I've seen it time and time again when the right KPIs that is aligned with values is actually adopted. It is a complete game changer within the organization or the team that's involved. Now, the final KPI that I have for this short little podcast is KPIs are supposedly for management only. Hmm. This is a big one. Now, if your frontline team doesn't understand or does not relate to the KPI, then you potentially are missing the point. And I think potentially you're already getting to where I'm getting at. The best KPIs help everyone see how their work contributes to the bigger picture. And the only way for you to make sure everyone sees the bigger picture is if the KPIs are directly related and easily understood and easily adopted by most people. A KPI that is forward looking is a KPI that speaks value, a KPI that speaks on behavior, a KPI that speaks on team effort as opposed to individual brilliance. It's a KPI that speaks on on shared success as opposed to individual success. This is the difference whereby a manager can fundamentally step back and say, you know what? This is not really not my KPI. I might break down the KPI on terms of behavior down to, you know, my manager's team, but the essence of that KPI should remain, and what it drives should be a behavior change, not so much a tick on the box to say whether I've done this or not. Game changer. So, here at MoloMolo Tech Studios, we believe that systems create results, not random metrics. Now, if you want to improve productivity, stop obsessing about numbers and start designing smarter workflows. That's how you should find and choose the right KPIs. KPIs that are based on value, based on future value, based on future results. And that's how you will be able to grow sustainably. Now, if you are ready to explore a system based approach to KPIs, let us work together in terms of workflows and how we can map out your processes and align your metrics and boost your team's performance from the inside out. You see, this is the aim of every single business, whether you're large or small, is to have measured controls that are affecting behavior. And with behavior, you have now a chance to affect a specific culture and the results that follow with that culture. I'm Dr. PK. I hope this has been helpful to you. I'm hopeful this has been something that gives you some food for thought to even investigate further and to contact us if you want some more information on this. And I hope we can definitely work together. I'm Dr. PK. This is another episode of MoloMolo African Text Stories. Until next time, ciao.